Whether you're using any of the online social media systems or offline word of mouth to promote your brand, service, or product, you probably keep getting asked to show return on the dollars being spent. Now, WOMMA, the Word of Mouth Marketing Association, has your solution with its newly released and highly anticipated ROI Guidebook. We've got some of the authors here to talk about how you can solve the ROI riddle and what it will mean for your future campaigns. That's what's next on WOMMA TV. Hi everyone, I'm Curtis Hollister, and joining me to talk about WOMMA's just released ROI Guidebook is Walter Karl, Founder and Chief Research Officer at Chattreads, and Neil Beam, Director of Client Services at MOTIVEQUEST. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So let me just start by saying that the ROI Guidebook is available for download by going to womma.org/research for anyone that's watching this program and wants to get it right away. Now, both of you guys were part of the team that helped to develop the ROI Guidebook. What is the guidebook and why did WOMMA create it?
Sure. Well, the WOMMA Guidebook is really a practical handbook. The intended audience are brand managers who have to deal with the question about social media ROI day in and day out because they see news stories about social media and how important it is. They see their competitors using it, either doing it well, doing it poorly, and they have to figure out a way to respond. But really, in order to do that, to get funding for programs, they have to be able to demonstrate what the impact is. And so what we wanted to do with this book is kind of give them a set of tools that they could use and do it in a very user-friendly way, very much focus on practical examples through case studies.
Now you're both part of the team, but the team comprised people from agencies, from research firms, from brands. So it was a pretty diverse team and opinions. It wasn't just one company coming up with a white paper. I guess that's one of the strengths of this kind of a document in this case.
That's right. We felt it was really important. So Neil and I are the co-chairs of the Research and Measurement Council at WOMMA, and we really wanted to have a diversity of voices. And so what we wanted to do with the book covers is all the different venues where social media takes place now, and different ways that you can do the measurement in those to demonstrate what the impact and ROI is.
Now, and most firms have their own kind of workflow. They've got a new idea or new product or an existing product. They want to campaign it. Do you see that this kind of a guidebook or this kind of a measurement kind of application becomes part of that workflow from just an industry standard point of view for how they promote online and offline activities? You know, is this going to just become a natural way that everyone's having the same kind of conversation?
Yeah, I think the answer there is yes. And I would lay out that there is a kind of an evergreen need within an organization that the fundamentals of measurement should be there and always on, as well as a programmatic aspect of measurement. So whether it's strategy formation before a fiscal year starts and you start to lay out the individual programs, you would want to essentially bake in ROI measurement, the metrics that then lead to a business objective that is financial, or it could be revenue generation. It could be focused on basically cost deflection or channel shift type measurements from high cost channels to low cost channels. You want to have that not only evergreen, but you want to design each individual program specific to the objectives that you're trying to cover. And it's really about the fundamentals, tying what you're doing from programs back to a financial goal.
So this has the opportunity to really have a big influence on the entire creative process in a lot of cases. So maybe we can jump into what makes the ROI Guidebook kind of a new and important resource. You know, what does it cover and how deep does it go?
Sure. So we cover a range of different topics and venues. So from starting out with listening in either online venues and listening to offline word of mouth, how to measure offline word of mouth, which is something that doesn't leave a digital trail. But when you look at online word of mouth, how do you understand the different topics that are being discussed, the different sentiment, and how learning from listening can actually turn into ROI. We look at combination programs that have both an online and an offline component. We have offline events, corporate blogging, influencer marketing, experiential marketing, looking at Facebook as a venue, looking at online ratings and reviews, looking at sharing tools that you can place on your own site, ways to measure social engagement, especially in the context of online communities, and how you measure the impact of online videos.
So, I mean, from the point of view of being able to apply these kind of details and this approach, I mean, is this a new role within a lot of creative teams, or is this something that can fit within the existing structure of the creative teams? Like, it seems like something that needs to be involved from the beginning, but I'm like, how involved is this approach? You know, does it live within it?
Yeah, I think I might suggest that organizations have always had their marketing mix, and what we're seeing is the next evolution in the marketing mix to include word of mouth components to it. I know there was a great study just done between AT&T and Keller Fay, presented at a conference recently, and they talked about how word of mouth is now part of the market mix, and they suggested actual true tried measures of how this can impact the organization over time. So if we think about this just as an evolution and a continuum, and how word of mouth marketing can fit into the other elements in the portfolio. While Walter gave a really good assessment of online and offline in the portfolios of venues where social media takes place, the fact is this is still integrated into the bigger picture and the bigger package. It's the fact that this now has to be considered within the package and portfolio of programs, design, strategies throughout the year, and the tactics that are employed.
And Neil, to that point, like, is the guidebook have the capacity to basically start to embrace whatever that new social system is that comes next? You know, is it a methodology that's applicable to things that maybe haven't been created yet?
Yeah, when you say things that haven't been created, let's be specific. Venues that are emergent. We saw Pinterest really hit the radar in 2012. Yeah. What's the next big thing that's going to be out there? Or let's be clear, everything has its life cycle. We saw that life cycle with MySpace. And how do you phase out the elements that are no longer relevant? I'd say the answer is yes, because the focus is really on, again, tying programs to the business objectives, to goals that are metrics-based and time-bound. And when you're constantly focusing on the business goal, right? Are we driving revenue? Are we saving cost? Are we accelerating innovation? What's the right program, the right venue, portfolio to bring into that business objective? You've got something that's absolutely solid. Yeah, the venue portfolio will change. There's no doubt about that. That's the one certainty that we have in this space and in life in general, is change is constant.
Now,
if you just focus on the fundamentals are solid.
Well, and I think that's something that everyone's looking for, right? Is that if this does become a part of their workflow, that whatever that new thing is, the new social system that's kind of pitched to the team, they go, okay, great, no problem. We've got a way of actually evaluating that in advance. So, I mean, the project team must have had to sift through so many different kind of options and approaches. What were some of the things that didn't make it into the document? Like, or what are some of the myths that surround social media ROI? Walter, do you want to attack that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's three key myths that marketers kind of fall into when we talk about social media ROI. The first one is that counting likes and followers equals ROI, social media ROI. And really, that couldn't be further from the truth. Those things are what we call activity metrics, things that consumers do online that leave a digital trail. And marketers think because they're easily quantifiable that they actually should be counting them and that they actually mean something. And we would contend that actually creates a quantitative fiction. It actually misleads marketers into thinking that there's some value there. Instead, what they really need to be focusing on are value metrics. These are metrics that drive bottom line goals and business impacts. These are things like, as Neil mentioned earlier, increasing revenue, deflecting costs, increasing brand preference and brand perceptions, because those things can lead ultimately to increasing revenue. So that's the first myth. I think the second myth is that the way that you determine social media ROI is the same for traditional media like TV and digital as it is for word of mouth and social media. And the problem with that is the really traditional media don't do a good job of generating sharing behavior. And they really focus on the impact on a particular individual and whether that person shifts their perception or goes out and purchase. But with social media, you get a huge network effect or amplification effect. And if you don't have measurement tools that allow you to capture that effect, you're really undervaluing the impact of social media. And then the third myth, I think, is that social media should be measured independently of other channels. And really, that's not so much that people think, oh yeah, I've got to go measure social media independently. It's just they don't have tools or methods that will allow them to give a holistic 360-degree view of how social media works in the context of everything else that they're doing in. And so I think one of the things that this book does is starts to kind of reveal some of that, the mentality of the myths, and shows kind of what the reality is, which is that you've got to focus on your business goals that drive bottom line metrics. Don't count just what's easy. 2, ROI is ROI is ROI, meaning the ROI calculation hasn't changed. We should hold social media to the same principles and standards as we do any of our marketing investment. We're still spending money. We're still investing our time in it. It still needs to drive a business value. And third, you've got to measure social media's value in the context of everything else that you're doing. You can't just isolate it as a separate channel.
Well, very well put. Just in closing, Neil, you know, the guidebook, this is a new document, obviously. Is there an expectation from the project team on when you expect to update it? Is this going to be updated once a year or every 6 months? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. WOMMA produced a guidebook that was around measurement best practices and guidelines in 2009. That was really channel focused, and I would say the ROI emphasis in the latest guidebook now in 2012, 3 years later, incorporates not only new venues, but just the expectation for at brands and practitioner level for further articulation of the metrics themselves tied to now financials. So the struggle in 2009 was, how do we just measure the activities that we're doing? Walter's articulated now the emphasis on value metrics. I could anticipate that we would refine this over time to further look at the integration aspects. Again, I think we're very good at measuring individual programs and tying those programs to some sort of attribution to value. I'd like to see the interaction now across different venues and different programs and the marketing mix. So television, print, online, offline. And I don't think we've gotten there yet. I think this is a step in that direction.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for all your time and effort and to create such an important document that's sure to become kind of an industry standard, and for participating in the program today.
Thank you so much, Curtis.
To get a copy of the ROI Guidebook, you can download it by going to womma.org/research. I'm Curtis Hollister, and you're watching WOMMA TV.